Well, WrestleMania season is officially over. We had the Raw after WrestleMania 41 last night, and boy, oh boy, was it interesting. We had some big returns, and we had some storylines that we finally got a little bit more sense out of. Thank you, Dwayne. And just a few other things that went on. A lot of shock returns, as I mentioned, and some really excellent matches and some excellent feuds that look like they're going to be kicking off for the future. So. We're here to talk about all of it and give you guys our banter, our opinions, and all of the fun stuff that we've provided in all of these reviews we've given you so far. As always, I'm Mike with 716 Sports Entertainment, joined by my main man, Mr. T. Reese and Mr. Sean O'Neill. And we're gonna break it all down for you. As always, please guys like and subscribe. We are so close to 100 subscribers, and we really want to get there. And we really appreciate all the support you guys have given us through this WrestleMania season. So, guys, with that, Raw kicked off with the new undisputed WWE champion, John Cena, coming out to celebrate if you want to call it, celebrate his newly minted WWE championship. And when he got into the ring right away, he had the ring announcer, the new ring announcer, reread his introduction because it wasn't appropriate enough for him, introducing him as the last WWE champion to then he goes into his speech and points over to the entrance tron with the number 36 that showed up, and he proceeded to explain that these are the amount of dates that he has left available until he's gone and he takes the title with him forever out of the company and will sort of leave WWE as the last real champion. And then as he, delivered his promo, he, mentioned all of the days that he wrestled at the Rumble, at the Chamber, and at WrestleMania, as well as his appearances across Europe. And that number came down to 27. So it's obviously, introduced sort of a timeline, if you will, of like what's to be left for John Cena's run here. And then obviously the end of the segment where he held up the title to kind of do a pose and was introduced to an RKO from Randy Orton, which clearly is going to be setting up our next feud at Backlash, which is in St. Louis, Randy Orton's hometown. So, what did you guys think of this as the payoff to the end of WrestleMania? And where do you think we go from here? I'll kick it off to you, Terrence.
Well, I thought it was really interesting the way he keeps coming out to the ring, and they're really going to carry this for a while. It looks like, but I'm not sure where they go. 'Cause, I mean, they're alluding to a lot of different things, and the only thing that makes sense to me is that he's only going to come out when he's drawn out. In other words, Randy Orton's calling him out now. This will be the storyline up to the next pay-per-view, and Cena will disappear. And you'll have all kind of people talking about him, bringing his name up, and then obviously whoever's hot next, they're going to put him in the ring with. I think that's how they're going to ride this out for the rest of the way. Or this is a bit of symbolism to say they're getting rid of all those WWE belts and they're going to start new belts.
That's one way to look at it.
What are the chances of them reunifying the belts?
You mean Jay's belt and the other one?
Yeah. I mean, if he's going to go around calling himself the last true champion, what are the chances of them going back to one belt?
I mean, that's kind
I
of
mean,
tough, right? Because didn't they just have to like do that with Reigns when Reigns unified those titles and they created that belt a couple of years ago?
yeah, but if you put it on somebody who's going to actually defend it more often than Reigns did, then I think you could get away with it. I think part of the problem was that you had one person holding two belts and defending neither of them that often with Reigns. Whereas if you go back to one belt and say put it on a Seth Rollins, I could see someone like that running every PLE and defending it.
Mhm.
My only concern with the Cena presentation here is that it's going to turn into like how when Lesnar held the belt, how we would only see, or similar to how with AEW, how we barely ever see the title belt. Like the whole point of your champion is to see them, and you want to see that belt. And with Lesnar, you'd see him once every 3 months. With the other promotions, you never even see their belt. I don't want to see that. I want to see our champion, even if it's a heel champion. I want to see him defending that. Or the same thing with like this feud with Orton. I understand they're doing it because it's going to be in St. Louis, Orton's hometown. But is this just going to be a 1 month feud? Are we going to only get short 1 month feuds out of Cena, or are we going to get some sort of extended feud with somebody?
So I think that the countdown, the number 27 that's left, I think that that is interesting. Like, I think that that is perhaps the most interesting thing about this whole thing with John Cena, because it really, I think it gets them out of a lot of the nonsense with The Rock, right? Like all of that selling of his soul stuff and all that crap that we clearly know is just not going to get a payoff because of how awful Dwayne is. But I think that that adds a sense of urgency, if you will, because I kind of think once we get a little bit closer, like a little bit further down and get into the teens and then, 8 or 9, 7, 6, right? It's really going to add a sense of urgency and a sense of really like, oh crap, like we're getting close. Cena's advertised for this show. Somebody's got to come out and beat him, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see who he feuds with as that number goes down. To your both to I forget which one of you made this point, but I think initially, yeah, they're going to play his greatest hits, right? Like Randy Orton, CM Punk at I would bet my house that they're going to CM Punk at Money in the Bank, right? Like they're going to redo that. I'm going to blow you a kiss and walk away with the title kind of thing. They're 1000% going to do that. But it's just going to be really interesting to see what happens like as that number goes down and when does Cody come back? Because I'm sure Cody's going to get that rematch as well, right? I don't think that he's just gonna um, or maybe it does go down to zero, and maybe that's when his face turn happens and he lays down for the Rock. I mean, who knows, right?
Well, here's this is why I'm thinking they may get rid of so many belts because if you notice, the push is always going to be the belt with Roman Reigns, no matter what. So the other belt, that currently Jay holds, I mean, it's just it's second. So it's almost like it's pointless right now because neither one of them equal each other, even though they're basically both the same belt. So they're gonna. I mean, if they got away with just holding one belt, that means you could start crossing shows, which allow you to kind of open the door for more of a storyline, more people to get involved.
Mhm.
Because right now, look at the tag division. Each side, they're both struggling because they can't cross they can't cross shows.
Yeah.
So right now, they're putting themselves in a corner by just secluding the shows. Because if you lose the talent on one side, you're stuck. And that's what's happening right now for them.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I mean, it was always a case where one belt was felt more meaningful than the other. I mean, look at the years of like when you had the WWE Championship and then the World Heavyweight Championship. Don't you can't tell me that when the Undertaker wasn't carrying the belt over whoever had it on Raw, that belt the Undertaker was carrying didn't feel more meaningful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they really they did a good job keeping it on Gunther, and I know like yeah, it's not it was a really good feel good moment, right? That Jay won that belt, and we'll talk about Jay in a little bit when we get a little bit further into the review here. But I think to your point, right? Like Jay's a transitional champion. Like he's not going to keep it very long if you want to keep that belt relevant. I mean, when we get to the main event, both of those guys in the main event now, like you put that belt on one of them and instantly that belt becomes is triple as credible as it is now.
Yeah, I know who's getting it. Take a stab at it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to go on either one of them, though. And we'll talk about that main event segment in a little bit. So the show after Cena's segment and him and Randy Orton hitting the RKO, which was great. We had our first match of the evening, which was a rematch from WrestleMania. And when I initially saw this, I was like, what is going on here? Like why are we doing this again immediately? And but sure enough, we had the women's tag team titles on the line for a rematch of the match we had at WrestleMania between Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Becky and Lyra. And this match was fine. It had, Raquel is actually kind of the MVP of the match. She broke up several pins throughout. Liv looked good, and Becky like seemed fine again after all. So anyway, the match ended, Liv hitting the Oblivion on Lyra, but it was really the post-match angle that was kind of the big deal for this match, where we had Becky turning on Lyra, beating her down, hitting her with a couple of manhandle slams. And what was interesting about this was, her being kind of obviously clearly turning heel against a babyface Lyra. The crowd, which we'll talk about the crowd. Actually, Sean, I want you to get into the crowd. The crowd seemed to want Becky to hit another manhandle slam on Lyra, and to me, this felt rushed, and I think you needed to spend a little bit more time on this because the crowd very clearly wants to cheer Becky Lynch, and based on the reaction of them asking for more. But Sean, I'll pass it over to you. Do you think that they rushed this?
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, you want to get the prestige back on that IC belt because as good of a wrestler as Lyra is, I hate to say that she's really not bringing a whole lot to it, but just by having Becky Lynch's name associated with it, you automatically bring a certain level of respect to it. You know what I mean? Even if Lyra beats Becky once out of their feud here, um, it still makes it look a little bit better. And holy God, that crowd! Just the entire weekend, this was probably one of the worst crowds that I've ever seen. I know that in our chat we talked about it a pretty significant amount. And I mean we can talk about our reactions to it throughout for the different matches here, but it seems like this crowd wanted every single person to be a heel. And that doesn't work. Like, I'm sorry, you can't have everybody be the bad guy because if everyone's the bad guy, who wins? Unless you're Razor Ramon, but that's besides the point.
Well, I don't even so much whoever is the bad guy. It's just in general who's the most popular. You can't have half of your top stars, or actually more than half of your top stars, all be heels. And that's what distorts the fans. So, I mean, that's on WWE. Because, I mean, most of them are all heels. So if they were to go against, and this is why Cody gets such a pop that like he does, because he's like really the true only baby face in the company. And then
Crowd there.
Yeah, and on top of that, everybody else that's you would want to see them wrestle are all heels. Everybody. There's no one to team him up with. There's no one else to include him in any other storyline. All his storylines want to be his own.
Yeah. There's definitely they're stacked with heels, and they do not have enough credible baby faces. That's for certain. And I wanted to actually go back to one of the things Cena said that I actually kind of liked during his promo, where he made mention to the fans specifically about how when he brought up Cody Rhodes' name and the fans booed him, like they booed him mentioning Cody Rhodes' name specifically, and he called them out for that. And I kind of liked that. Like actually, like I liked that a lot because he was basically kind of just, proving what we all said and how we all kind of reviewed that match and how everybody kind of feels about how that match ended and how the crowd reacted, that it was just kind of like, you guys don't even know what you want. Like, no, you don't know what you want. And this guy like busted his ass for you. And, look at what happened at last year's WrestleMania, how we coronated him. And now you don't give a crap about him. Like, you don't know what you want, and that really, to me, like that kind of rang true, like quite a bit when that line came out.
It really showed off the hypocrisy of the crowd. And honestly, it makes it kind of difficult to buy into Cena's gaslighting when so much of what he's saying is true.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the whole point. I think that's the whole point of his character, is to show the how sheepish the WWE is. And I think that's and he's playing the character to the T. And then the reason why he's getting away with it and it's looking so good is that he's acting. He's an actor anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, he's selling this, but at the same time, he's making fun of the crowd, and they don't realize they're being made fun of, and they don't understand what the point of this turn is for him now. Right now, he's considered himself an elitist, and everybody else is nothing but peasants to him. And that's the angle they're going with. I mean, truly, I mean, it's excellent writing, or at least John. I mean, I'm pretty sure John doesn't probably gets. I think John does most of his own off the cup.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was always kind of one of the things over the years, right? Like that there were certain guys, and Cena was one of them, that had like complete autonomy with their character. I know, Sean, you had mentioned that to me like numerous times over the years. There was like always four or five guys that like did not have to follow a script because, either they were up Vince's ass so much or they were just, completely trusted with their character.
What it comes down to is whether or not the writers room could trust these guys to know what they wanted done with their characters. And I mean, you see it more so with people whose characters literally are themselves, like your Logan Paul. Like I guarantee you, Logan Paul doesn't have anything written for him. They just tell him to go out there and be himself and be a douchebag, and he just goes out and does it. Same for your John Cena. I mean, it's why we saw it's why we got the complaints we did about John Cena for as many years as we did, that he was stale. He's the same character because he was just being himself out there.
Yep, I mean, now it's getting interesting, and now that I understand what happened because of The Rock, I can't be really mad at WWE no more. But they got to figure out some way to kind of wrangle that in. He's gonna ruin major storylines whenever he wants to. It's not like that's what he's trying to do.
I made a point to Mike yesterday of, was this The Rock's way of punishing Cody for last year and for the taking back of the main event from them wanting to do Rock versus Roman? Is this Dwayne's way of getting back at Cody and saying, "Oh well, I'm actually in charge and I, you don't matter"?
But it was so weird too because he was on Pat McAfee today and he had made mention of, that they initially pitched turning Cody heel and they were like, oh, well, we're not going to, Cody didn't want to do it. Or that's what he said. He said Cody didn't want to do it. Then we're like, oh, well, maybe John should do it, and John kind of like loved the idea. And, that was where he was kind of I'm just gonna say it. He was lying straight up to Pat McAfee when he said he was at home for WrestleMania, but then he was actually backstage, but then he was actually in Hawaii. And it's like, where the hell were you, you lying asshole? Like, I mean, so I don't know. I don't really, he kind of reminds me almost of like a modern day Hogan, where it's like, do you know, like, is anything you're saying true at all?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. And please take a look at our watch our review from yesterday because Sean and I really, really laid into Dwayne quite a bit for the first 15 to 20 minutes of our night two review of WrestleMania night two. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't trust the guy at all. And I really think I know whichever one of you made the point earlier about how they just have to completely you feel bad for these writers because they just have to completely redo the stories whenever this guy decides to show up and, put some sort of cryptic message out there about, his tequila
You
brand.
know, the worst part too is that it's not just the writers that you feel bad for. It's the entertainers, because the wrestlers. Because how do you know when Dwayne's not just going to show up and ruin your storyline because he feels like inserting himself and coming out and rock bottoming someone because he feels like it? Like, I how do you prepare for anything when you never know what the hell is going to happen?
Yeah.
So moving on the show, then, the next segment we had the freshly minted New Day came out with their new World Tag Team Championships. And, they asked the crowd to, acknowledge them as the best tag team ever. And they were quickly interrupted by the Alpha Academy of Otis, Tozawa, and Maxine. And Maxine had kind of goaded them into having a match with the Alpha Academy. And the Alpha Academy came down to the ring. And at that point in time, something really interesting happened. We found out that it was, in fact, Rusev Day, because every day is Rusev Day, and Rusev made his long anticipated return to the WWE and came down to the ring, and you saw the New Day kind of duck out of the ring, but Rusev killed Tozawa and killed Otis in the ring. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought he looked like $1 million. So, Terrence, give me your thoughts on Rusev making his much anticipated return.
He is a massive dude, man. I mean, he made everybody, even Otis, didn't even look that big. And I mean, give credit. Well, actually, you know what's funny? I had called that. I remember I said I believed this was going to happen at that Andre the Giant Royal Rumble,
Yeah, yeah.
but instead it happens in this tag, in this middle of this tag match. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm wondering what they're going to do with him. Could he be? Could he be one of the other Paul Heyman guys?
That'd be
To
interesting.
very,
Not with
you
not
want to
with
get
the,
into the character quick? I mean, get him back in everybody's name, get him under there.
Be
if
interesting.
Lana if Lana comes back, no. But if without
Oh,
her, yes.
she's not. She only has a Legends contract. It's not even a full contract. And
Oh,
hers
is
is
that
Legends.
is that what it is?
Yep.
Interesting. Um, you're right though. He did look like $1 million out there, and I'm kind of surprised we didn't hear any more Tony fumbled chants when he came out and was destroying them.
You might.
One thing that I do think we should give credit for though is how about that Maxine promo on their way to the ring?
Mhm.
She did a really good job there for the way that they use her. I think this is the first time I could say I've actually been impressed by a promo from Maxine. Um, and then obviously Miro putting the accolade on Otis was impressive, and I just they need to put a belt on the guy and let him go on a Gunther-esque run. It's what they should have done in the first place. We should have been saying Gunther's run was Rusev-esque.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was that he had Lana, and Vince is.
Yeah,
I mean, I love Rusev. I think he looked great. I was really sad to see him go when he left, but I mean, again, like you guys have mentioned, AEW really just kind of fumbled him and they didn't know what to do with him and they never really made him the champion that he needed to be, I think. And that was just kind of just disappointing. So I'm glad he's back in the WWE and I hope now that Triple H is in charge that they really, you know, put him into the IC title mix or something and get him going with some kind of run.
I mean, if you look at the way he was booked in NXT by Triple H, it should be a good sign going forward for him.
Mhm.
Yeah, and interesting enough, he only signed a 2-year deal.
How old is he? He's up there though, right? He's got to be pushing 40.
Yeah, I think so.
So next we had Io Sky come to the ring, and Io Sky was perhaps as genuine as I've ever seen her when she came to the ring. She was all smiles and she just, so happy and so appreciative to have won the belt and talked about how, she cut a few a few of her lines in Japanese and it really got the crowd going. But she was really, just kind of blessed and appreciative of, winning the title and, beating the best. And she talked about how, she beat Rhea and how she beat Bianca. And then she was quickly interrupted by our NXT Women's Champion, Stephanie Vaquer, who came out in this amazing looking like gown thing that was like sort of dragging almost a mile behind her, but it looked fantastic. And she came to the ring and made mention that she wanted to face the best. And this led to an impromptu match between the two of them. And this went through several commercial breaks and it was awesome. Yeah, this was the best match on the show. But Sean, I'll kick it over to you. What did you think of the match? And tell us about the after the match shenanigans as well.
The only disappointment I have is that we didn't get to actually have an ending to the match. Um, with how talented these two are and being able to showcase your NXT Women's Champion going up against your main roster champion, it just they made both of them made each other look fantastic. They were both fluid in the ring. Neither of them particularly botched ever, so it's pretty much to be expected. I will say that I was surprised by not by necessarily by one of the people who interfered, but by the fact that it was both Julia and Roxanne who interfered. I was expecting Roxanne to interfere on the McCur side because they can't make up their mind with her. But to see Julia interfere too was definitely interesting. I'm very curious to see how they're going to play this out. And then of course Ripley coming to the rescue with that quite the black eye that she had.
Mhm.
I'm going to blame Bianca for that somehow. But I I don't know. I think part of me wants to see Ripley away from the title picture for a little while. But if we get some sort of multi-person match out of this, I don't think any of us are going to complain.
I think this was a test run for cross promotions for AAA because it really didn't make any sense to do it on Raw unless you had a specific reason to showcase those two. And I can probably see that WWE is going to you're probably going to see this happen a little more frequent than normal because I think that's what's going to, like I said, I think that's what's going to happen with NXT and AAA. They're already going to have a pay per view together, so I think you're going to have a lot of crossing paths of each show. So the match was fantastic. I mean, I agree with you, Mike. It was probably the best match of the night, and we didn't get a finish to it, but I had no problem with it because both women are champions, so neither one of them lost anything.
Right.
So I mean, you can't say EO. I mean, the women's division needs some real serious contenders. So if you're going to allow EO to squash one of their women that they want to push up, I mean, it's pointless. You probably want as many strong character women to move up while they're still holding the belts or still have the popularity.
Yeah. I think this is a safe way to um one of the things I think is that NXT and the main roster have very different audiences, I think. And it's clear by obviously just the sheer number of viewers between the two shows, right? Like, SmackDown and Raw get in the millions typically, in and around 2 million views per episode, whereas NXT often hovers around 6 or 700,000 per episode, right? So I think that a lot of folks who watch the main roster and the folks who go to those live shows, they may not be familiar with the talent on NXT. And I think that this was a great way for them to, in effect, just show what their top talent looks like on NXT, because we've said it before that Stephanie, Julia, and, we're kind of mad about how they fumbled Roxanne. But I mean, Stephanie and Julia are the future of that women's division. And I think that this is a nice way to, and I hope that they do more with them to kind of show that, hey, like, the future looks good for this division.
And that pretty much means at any given moment, like I said, anybody can show up in the program. And that's why my theory about the belt, I think, might hold true because each promotion will have their own belts. And wherever you cross over to, that's the belt you contend against. And also it gives I mean, have you ever looked at the roster for WWE? How many names on there I've never ever heard of or people I've never seen before? So they have a lot of wasted talent that they could be using in other organizations to make money on.
I mean, that's why they sent Omos over to Japan to wrestle with Pro Wrestling Noah. I mean, you take advantage of that. And with this particular match, it's nice to see them showcasing. It's always nice to see them showcase NXT talent on the main roster. That's why it was always cool, like that SmackDown we went to back in the day when it was Daniel Bryan versus Adam Cole,
Oh my
which is
God,
one of the
yeah.
best matches we've ever seen. And
Thanks to everybody being stuck in Saudi Arabia.
like, why? My point though stands. Like, why don't we see this more often? You have all of this talent. Like to T's point, you have so much talent that there's people who you just don't see. But take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I recommend anybody just to go to their website and look at the roster and how many names and faces you said I have never heard of or seen these people ever. Yeah, I mean it's actually incredible. And they're still making the deal with New Japan, am I right?
Allegedly that's going to be a thing. I don't actually know if like that's going to end up happening or if they're just doing it to kind of stick it to AEW, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I think either way it's a win-win because there's another cross promotion there.
Somebody was saying something about how, they bought AAA over the weekend, but I read that there was something about how they're not allowed to buy another company for like another 5 years or something like that. Did you tell me that,
So
Sean?
So it wasn't me. It was that other guy we were watching with.
Mm,
Monopoly.
Because it prevents him from becoming a monopoly.
okay. That's interesting. I
Um,
wasn't aware of that.
I don't mention WWE purchasing New Japan or any of that to certain areas of the internet. You might make their heads explode.
So our next segment led us to Jey Uso coming to the ring. Again, this is kind of a theme going on for this show, but I think after that last match, this show really started to pick up. Jey Uso came to the ring to celebrate his newly minted World Heavyweight Championship, and this went on for a while. It took it took Jey a while to get to the ring, as it always does. And this is another instance where, and Sean, I'm going to pass it to you in a second. This is another instance where I was super disappointed with the crowd again, because you had another big return right here in a returning Sami Zayn, who came out to, congratulate Jay and tell Jay how proud he was of him and how he was just, so happy to be the first person to stand across the ring from Jay and give him his flowers, more or less, right? And so they both got up on the ring posts and they started eating. And there was a really interesting kind of moment for a second there where you almost thought that Sammy was going to turn on Jay because he kind of
Mhm.
looked like he was going to turn on Jay a little bit. And they could definitely be hinting at a program there, which, given all of their history, I think would be awesome. But obviously, that tension kind of quickly went away when Jimmy came out as well, and all three of them sort of celebrated their way to the back. This went on a little bit too long, but Sean, I'll let you talk about the crowd and how disappointing that was and your thoughts on this segment.
So Jay's entrance was a typical Jay entrance. I mean, people are going to eat no matter what because it's an easy thing to do. I think my bigger disappointment was the lackluster response to Sami Zayn coming out. And yeah,
Mhm.
it wasn't like a huge like signing or anything, but Sami Zayn and the Usos are pretty big thing with each other. And Sammy usually gets a pretty decent reaction to coming out wherever they are. He's pretty much a fan favorite everywhere. Um, so was definitely a little disappointed by the crowd reaction there. And I will agree with you. I think that Sammy, when he was out there in the ring with Jay, did a real good job of focusing more on that title than he did on Jay himself. I don't know if you noticed that, but it looked like he was almost looking at the title the whole time instead of Jay. Made it definitely feel like that turn could be coming, only for Jimmy to come out and sort of them start doing their Usi thing.
I thought that I agree with you, Mike. Though this took a little too long. I mean, he did. I mean, he did it at Mania for 10 minutes, and you're gonna allow him to do it again. It was cool to see Sammy back. You're right. Let's be honest. I mean, this crowd was not good the whole night. So I know I wouldn't even. I mean, there's no point even talking about it. I think it spoke for itself. I mean, because when Sammy came out, it was crickets.
Yeah,
It dragged everything down.
it did.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do is it's Vegas. So you have, I mean, if there's any place that has nothing but tourists and probably very little actual wrestling fans, it's Vegas. And more than likely, because he wasn't anywhere mentioned in any pay-per-views or anything like that, no one knew who he was. They only know who was headlining WrestleMania. That's only people. Most of those people probably had no idea who Sami Zayn was or what his connection is to.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that because the Raw after Mania is usually more so than Mania itself. The Raw after Mania is usually where the more hardcore fans show up versus the Mania event itself. Because you have all the wrestling fans who want to be there for everything that they know is going to happen on the Raw after Mania.
Right, but you gotta understand, you're going after Mania. So the hardcore fans have spent most of their money at Mania. They're going home to watch Raw, unless you actually have that kind of currency to go to all those nights. I think a majority of people are just tourists. I think there's people there who happen to be there and going to buy tickets for us or after WrestleMania, or they just happen to be there. I mean, look at the crowd. I mean, did you notice the crowd? Doesn't even look like a wrestling crowd. Anytime through Vegas, that whole time didn't look like a wrestling crowd.
I mean,
Most,
that partially falls on the type of city it is.
most of the front row was celebrities, or like kind of like they kept showing this fit guy in the corner all the time. I mean, like it wasn't the normal wrestling crowd, and don't forget it's 60,000. WrestleMania had 60,000 people. This was just a regular arena last night.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I
So
have to agree with you, Reese. It is the crowd. Yeah, I know we've mentioned it numerous times now, but yeah, be they not wrestling fans or what, but this crowd just dragged down this whole show, and
mhm.
I think this needs to be a lesson to WWE. I think that maybe we shouldn't be doing Las Vegas for a while anymore, and any more of these tourist trap cities. Like you need to go to cities like that are going to be hardcore about the wrestling, and frankly. As much as I necessarily am not sure how I feel about WrestleMania being outside of the United States, I think a WrestleMania in Europe would be one of the like just the biggest spectacles to watch like ever because of the way those crowds behave in Europe. Like my God, can you imagine if they did it in like in the UK or something like that? How nuts all those guys people are about, about wrestling? That would be awesome.
Can you imagine a WrestleMania package deal? How much it would cost to go there?
Hmm.
People would spend it.
Maybe. Huh?
People would spend it though.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that's my point. I mean, I think it's inevitable, just like the NFL. NFL's inevitable. We'll have a team in Europe soon too. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. So after the show came back from commercial break, we immediately saw Gunther at the commentary desk, and he was shouting at Michael Cole, and it was kind of like incoherent to sort of what he was saying. But this was an interesting segment, and I'm not really sure where they're going to go with this. But Michael Cole had made a comment to Gunther basically saying, "I'm not the one who tapped out," to which this seemed to really piss Gunther off, and he got enraged and choked out Michael Cole pretty quickly. Not for a very long time though, because McAfee kind of tried to come in for the save, but then Gunther just grabbed him, put him in the sleeper, and just would not let go for what seemed like a really, really long time. And props to McAfee for like really, really selling this to like borderline unconsciousness, including all of his like walk to the back where he was like almost, choking. But Reese, what did you think of this segment? And then Michael Cole's sort of subsequent reaction, going back to the desk after the fact after telling Pierce, I'm not going to be bullied by this guy.
Well, I thought it was interesting because I couldn't figure out what was going on because it came right back into the middle of it.
Hmm.
And like you said, I'm sitting there trying to figure out what is he talking about? Why is he yelling at the announce table? Did we miss something? And then all of a sudden, he started roughing them all up and whatnot. So yeah, I'm not sure what angle they're going to go with this. This is interesting. Maybe this is a way to watch Gunther take such a loss like that. Maybe this is a way to suspend him, taking him off TV for a while, and obviously have him return at some other period where you can introduce him back into another title, a title storyline. I think that's what they might end up doing. But it was weird. I wish I could have heard what he was saying, but I guess it was supposed to feel like it was organic. I guess.
So I wish that it would have, instead of being McAfee, I kind of wish that this would have happened when Barrett was out there because I feel this would have been a little bit more believable with somebody like Wade Barrett out there defending Michael Cole, because this is obviously going to lead to something between McAfee and Gunther. And you know as well as I do that he's just going to eat McAfee alive. Um, and something about McAfee coming to the defense of Michael Cole just doesn't seem 100% believable, especially against a guy like Gunther. But I think the bigger thing, I mean, besides the fact that how well McAfee sold it, like you said, on his trip all the way to the back, but the way Michael Cole acted for the whole rest of the show, how rattled he was and everything. I'm real curious to see where this goes beyond our inevitable Gunther Pat McAfee match at Backlash, probably.
I've heard a lot of like rumors and whispers that it's very likely that we're going to see Goldberg come back during the summer and that Gunther is very likely to be his opponent for his retirement match that he's been kind of clamoring for a while. So also would not be surprised to your point, Reese, about him Gunther taking some time off and then us seeing, a face to face with him and Bill Goldberg, maybe like at the SummerSlam or at like the Clash in Paris show or something like that.
As long as he
Yeah,
retires him quick.
but yeah, I think that's exactly what they're trying to line up. He'll be off of TV for a while because you don't normally see a major wrestler like him. They allow themselves to get tapped out and then show up the next week. They kind of disappear. Look at Roman Reigns after he lost.
Yeah,
He
didn't
didn't
see him
think
till SummerSlam.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly gonna be interesting to see where they go with that. And that was kind of the theme of the whole show, right? And actually, Sean, I want to pass it to you quickly to talk about your boy Karrion Kross.
I absolutely love all the work they're doing with Karrion Kross between his interactions with AJ Styles and his promos that he's been putting on about everything that they do as wrestlers backstage and his comments about I believe it was actually Bill Goldberg that he said who told him to stay in line and be a good little soldier. Yet when he does that, all he does is get screwed over. Um, Honestly, what I'm really hoping for is that this gives us a match with AJ and Styles continues his trend lately of putting people over because I think that this could lead to something really positive for Cross. I mean, I've always been a Cross fan, and it's nice to finally see them utilizing him in the correct way because they've definitely fumbled the bag a couple times with him, which is hard to imagine considering the look he has and his wife at his side. Like he had one of the best lines when he said, "Yeah, he may have lost that match to Styles on Raw, but he still gets to wake up next to a naked Scarlet." So
Well, I mean, at this point, he's due. We've been waiting for a while, like you said, Sean, that he's long overdue. And from what I think I was listening to some sort of interview with him, and he was talking about how he's basically taking his character over. So that's why, and I think, and my understanding, he's good friends with Drew McIntyre, which explains why he's so much, always on Twitter now. And Drew right now is like the king of the Twitter right now. So Karrion Kross is now trying to take up that man. I'm pretty sure Drew gave him pointers to just do that to promote yourself. Do something to make them put you on TV because the fans ultimately are going to determine your paycheck.
Yeah.
So you got to put yourself out there. I'll be honest with you. I did like the TikTok thing and stuff that he did at NXT. They kind of brought it up to WWE, but McMahon made a freaking mockery out of him. Remember that outfit he had on his debut night?
Oh, when he was the Bondage King? Yeah. So stupid.
Vince ruining people again.
Oh my goodness! I'm sitting there like, well, why? And we all knew that Vince had an issue with NXT. He wanted to distinguish the two, so you couldn't come up from NXT and be the same character on the main roster. They had to change your name or change your look or something like that.
That was so ridiculous. Didn't he come up in the bondage gear as the NXT champion and then lose to Jeff Hardy? Like,
Yes,
Yep.
he did.
didn't that
Yes,
happen?
he did.
Oh
Yes,
my
And he
did.
didn't have Scarlet.
No. No, he didn't.
Yep. Nope. So
So I mean,
go ahead.
like you were saying, like you have your days where Vince just completely buried people, and you have to have these guys try to overcome that. And I think Carrion might be one of those guys who's finally able to do that. I mean, hell, I highly recommend if anyone out there hasn't watched his promo when he was being interviewed, him and Scarlett on Sam Roberts yesterday, 100% go out and watch it.
Yeah, can't say enough good things about the dude. This led us into our final match of the evening, which now that I'm looking back at it, the show was nearly 3 hours long, and we had 2.5 matches on the show. That was kind of nuts. But with that being said, we had a match for the Intercontinental Championship between new champion Dirty Dominic Mysterio and Penta. And, as to be expected, Penta, looked great in this match, as he always does, hit all of his signature moves. Dom looked good too, and the crowd, another instance where the crowd was kind of behind the heel again. The crowd really wanted to cheer Dominic Mysterio for this one. But the story of this match was two things. One, Finn Balor kind of not wanting to help out Dom. And there was a backstage segment earlier where Finn more or less didn't forgive him, but kind of was just like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And Finn was really kind of not involving himself in sort of helping Dom to interfere. But we did get a returning JD McDonough who came back and ultimately helped seal the deal and get Dom the win to retain the title. So I'll pass this one over to you, Reese. What do you think about returning JD and where we go with Finn and the Judgment Day and sort of everything else moving forward for these guys?
Well, I mean, I don't believe they would. I mean, we obviously know the split's coming, but I mean, it's interesting. Is right when JD comes back, now you can replace his character and you can drop Finn now. So you still have your full faction over there, and Finn is going to go off on his own. He'll probably run with the Prince thing again and start going after it, the Judgment Day. But um, I don't know what the angle is with Carlito right now, though. Not that Braun's out of the way of that.
Now that Braun's not spearing him anymore.
Right, right. So what are you going to do with Carlito now? So I can probably see him being replaced as well with somebody else. So yeah, don't be surprised. There's going to be a big change to Judgment Day. I firmly believe that.
So JD coming back definitely throws a wrench into things, because JD is only there because he's such good friends with Balor. So part of me has a hard time thinking that if Balor leaves, McDonough stays. I know that could definitely be part of the storyline, but it definitely will feel real awkward if they do it that way. I do think though that obviously the Intercontinental belt is going to be the cause for Finn turning. I still firmly believe though that Dom is going to be the face here. With the way the crowd is reacting, I don't think that the WWE is going to have a choice other than to have him be the face. Problem though is how do you turn him face while keeping him part of the Judgment Day?
Yeah. It's hard to think that he could succeed on his own outside of the Judgment Day. Like I really think having Liv and Raquel around helps like a lot, right? Because like, they're both kind of their stars are kind of like going together, right? Like Carlito, JD now, and Raquel are definitely the background characters almost, right? Like in the Judgment Day, and Liv and Dom are clearly like the ones who are kind of at the top here, especially if Finn leaves, right? Like those two are going to be kind of your de facto leaders, even though Judgment Day doesn't have leaders, those guys are going to kind of be like your stars of the Judgment Day, like at least in the interim.
Yeah, and don't forget now, Judgment Day isn't really it's neither either way, a face or a heel. It's the in between. So you do have characters you cheer for, you have characters that you dislike in this group, and that was the whole point of it. You know what I mean? So I mean, we kind of look at them as heels because Rhea Ripley's not in there no more, and the way that ended, but she's still a heel though, like kind of an anti-hero type deal, where she's just doing what she wants to do to win. And I think that you'll be fine with JD staying with them because we're we're only saying that because we know they're friends behind the scenes. But for the sake of the storyline, it's happened a million times where tons of wrestlers are best friends, but they have to play, face and baby face and heel on screen. So I don't think that will be a problem because they need them there anyway.
I mean, the Judgment Day has always been, I think, classified as heels. Look at the way when they came in, the way they were attacking everybody, the things they did, the way they won all their different like titles and whatnot. And yeah, we know that JD and Finn are friends outside of WWE, but they made such a big deal about it storyline wise when Finn was trying to bring McDonough into the group and Priest was giving all the pushback on it originally, and how it was all just because he was Finn's friend at the point. So I don't know. I feel like it could provide some either drama or a little bit of a struggle there with whatever they're going to do going forward.
Well, you could play along with that with the storyline. You could say that JD is now torn between the two, and then in the end of it, he ends up choosing Judgment Day, which now lines up Finn Balor to go after him.
He's torn between his choice of two dads.
Pretty much.
Do we think that Penta is the one who ends up taking the belt off Dom still?
I don't know anymore. I'm wondering it like there's going to be a program between him and Finn. I mean, like that's
Does
tough.
it, does it need the belt though? Because I mean, your storyline could be that Finn costs him the belt,
That's
and then
true.
you just go from there.
Yeah.
They've done that a couple of times with the Judgment Day where like wasn't it when they had the tag team titles?
Yeah.
Something with Priest like not helping them or something like that. Isn't that why they lost the tag team belts, the War
Yeah.
Raiders?
Yep.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's plenty of different ways they can go. It's just a matter of I think a lot of depending on how what the storyline is for Paul Heyman's guys will ultimately determine what direction Judgment Day is going to go. Because like I said, the draft's coming up. You're going to be mixing and matching soon.
Yeah.
So you're going to probably see some people in both factions that you didn't expect.
Dude, imagine if Finn went to Heyman's group.
Wouldn't that be something?
I would love it. I'd love
Let's
it. Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect.
Let's get into that main event then, and talk about that. So this led to Rollins coming out with Paul Heyman, taking his sweet time to get to the ring. And the crowd, they were still singing his song, although he definitely attempted to be a bit more serious, but he didn't really get many words out before CM Punk quickly interrupted him. And Punk and Rollins kind of brawled before Punk kind of turned his attention to Paul Heyman. And this seemed to be the mistake that allowed Rollins to kind of gouge Punk's eyes out and then hit him with the stomp. Heyman then announced that Rollins was the quote, new reigning defending number one star in the industry before we saw the graphics kind of come up to sort of end the show, but it seemed kind of odd that like nothing else was going to happen. But then of course we got the music of Roman Reigns hitting, and Reigns hit the ring, hit Rollins with the spear, delivered the Superman punch to Paul Heyman, which was cool. Then he attempted to go for a spear on Paul Heyman, to which he was immediately drilled by a mystery man in a black hoodie who was very quickly revealed to be Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker then speared Punk, and as Punk was kind of going to sort of attack Rollins, and Rollins and Braun Breaker embraced, and he said, "That's my boy." Brock Breaker rolled out of the ring then, and kind of dashed all the way around the ring to spear Roman Reigns through the barricade, and got back into the ring. And for good measure, Rollins delivered one more stomp to CM Punk, and yeah, that was how the show ended, with the three of them standing tall per Terrence's background there. So, Sean, I know you had a lot to say about this segment and where you feel everything is going. So I'll kick it over to you, my friend.
I absolutely love it. I think that this is going to be just the right rub to get Braun Breaker to the level of like superstardom more than where he was at as Intercontinental title. He has both the mentorship of Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman now with him, and it gives Rollins the muscle to pretty much run wild throughout the WWE men's division. Doesn't matter where he's going to go. He now can do whatever the hell he wants, basically. He has Braun watching his back. He has Heyman to be his mouthpiece if that were even needed, considering how good of a talker Rollins himself is. I do think it was pretty interesting that Rollins really didn't say a whole lot in this segment because he really didn't have to. And I'm really looking forward to where this goes. I do think that the group needs to be a little bit bigger. There's a couple different rumors of other people who could join it, which I'll let you guys talk about in a second. But I feel like a bigger group here to run roughshod over Raw is is the right choice.
And you brought up a really good point with Braun now can be utilized in more different ways in higher stake matches. And I'm calling it right now. 1 year from now, WrestleMania main event: Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins.
I 100% agree with you on that.
Braun Breaker beats him and takes the belt.
What belt?
The heavyweight championship.
The
Jake?
belt. This is the belt that's on SmackDown. So this
Oh,
is going to be
Cena's belt?
Yep, this is going to be the belt. No, they're going to make a new belt.
Oh, okay. So you think that there's going to be another belt or a combined belt? Okay.
Yep, yep.
So one thing that
And
this also
unification, and they're going to ultimate in the end of the year. Next WrestleMania main event, we Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins.
You don't think there'll be two belts next year? You think that Jay's belt is just gonna be combined into Cena's belt?
Braun's going to take it.
Interesting. Okay.
so this one other thing that this really reminds me of is that Seth Rollins finally found his Kevin Nash to go along with him, his Diesel. So that way he has that go-to guy to get the job done for him. And we're gonna see, like T just said, I would 110% agree that next year's WrestleMania's main event will be these two men fighting over the title belt. And that's gonna be
not the title belt, both belts.
They don't. No, I don't think they'll carry both of them. I think it'll be one belt at that point.
Depends on where they go with Cena's story, I think. But yeah.
True.
Yeah. But you're going to see this follow the same sort of trajectory as when Kevin Nash and when Diesel finally ended up going over Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's very interesting, right? We've got so many potential stories, and I mean, I don't know where they're going to end up going with Cena and like who ends up being the one to take it off of Cena because I would assume, right, Cena's going to turn face before like he's not going to end his career as a heel. So we will get a face John Cena at some point and whoever ends up being the person to take that belt off of him. I mean, my money is probably still on Cody again to be the one to do it because we'll very likely get, we're obviously going to get Randy Orton, right? We're probably going to get CM Punk. There might be a few other guys here and there that will get a shot at Cena. They'll do something at SummerSlam, and it's probably going to come down like right down to the end there, I think, for Survivor Series or something like that, where Cena ends up dropping that belt. But they're starting to set up all these different factions and stuff like that, and we could very well see something again between this group and something with Roman Reigns and CM Punk again, because they're going to do that at some point too.
What's to say Cena doesn't have end up in a group with The Rock and people there too, and this turns into some sort of goofy like faction war?
Yeah. Well, The Rock's got to show up though.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's another problem. I mean, you can't do it. He's never going to be there.
Do we know what Cena's actual last show is going to be? Yeah.
Whenever that number gets to 0.
I'm just wondering if was this officially his last Mania, or is he going to go Mania to Mania and retire at Mania?
I think he said it was his last Mania, right?
Yeah, that's been announced a few times.
It seemed like it was a calendar year thing.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think he's going to disappear with the belt, and that's going to cause unification of the titles.
Is he going to bring the spinner back?
Nope. That's the whole point. He doesn't want to. The spinner belt was for fans. He did it for them. That's why you're not going to see the spinner belt come back.
Yeah, but everybody hated it. I could see him bringing it back because so many people hated it.
Yeah, but also it's one of the top selling belts of all time. So yeah, people didn't hate it.
Yeah. Your quote hardcore fans hated it.
Yeah. So overall, guys, give your final thoughts on what you felt about this being a Raw after Mania. Did it save the WWE from the way that the WrestleMania Night 2 ended? Are we starting to get things on the right track? What are your thoughts going forward? I'll pass it to you, Sean, to kick us off.
So I don't really think that there was anything that could have saved the way the main event of WrestleMania Night 2 ended. This definitely was not one of the more action-packed Raws after Mania, but they did do a real good job of setting up future storylines with the people who did come back and the factions that were created. I like that we are still going to be seeing storylines between Punk, Rollins, and Reigns still continuing. And the setup they did for the Cena Orton match wasn't a ton, but it was just enough to get me sort of prepared for what's going to be coming. Because I don't think it's going to be a ton of talking between the two of them, but it'll be interesting to see, especially with them, how much better of a wrestler Orton still is than Cena, that I'm curious to see the two of them in the ring together.
Well, I think, honestly, if I made the show yesterday, and I apologize for not being able to make the show, but if I made the show yesterday, I probably would have been, I'd have been potty mouthing it all over this show, just like these two guys right here.
Bad.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't swear once.
Now that you hear the after stories and everything that happened, I think they can't rescue what we saw, but the truth rescued the opinion of WrestleMania. So now that we all understand exactly what happened and why this storyline got all weird, I think I understand now. So now I can't be mad at WWE. I am interested in the Cena Orton thing, very interested. So I'm wondering when they're going to bring that around. Is John going to show up next week? They haven't even announced if he's going to be on there next week. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably won't see him for a little while. And I'm just wondering if that's what the Orton thing is going to be. Is trying to lure John out, and he's not going to answer. He's not going to answer the bell until the last minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that certainly, that certainly seems like it's going to be the case. Like, it's almost a guarantee that Orton is not going to win, right? But I mean, like, at the same time, I think that adding that timer of the amount of dates really helped this a lot
Mm-hmm.
for me, because like I really think that had they not done something to make me interested in all of this and something to like care about all of this, I would have been pretty annoyed like with all of this and the way that they did this. I'm still annoyed with the execution of the way WrestleMania Night 2 ended. I mean, I still think we got the right result. I think Cena winning was the right result. It's just the way we got there was just, was dreadful. But as far as the
Yeah.
Raw after Mania, I think that this was fine. I think this did a great job setting up future stories to Sean's point, debuting some new stars in Rusev. I didn't love the Becky Lynch heel turn. I wish they didn't rush it so much and gave us a little bit more time and juice with that, but I guess we'll see where it goes. I'm sorry, Sean, I meant to cut you off.
No, it's fine. I was going to say that being now I forgot what I was going to say. It's all must not have been that important, but yeah, no, they. I think the world wants to know who's winning the predictions.
I plead the fifth.
So let's get into that really quick. So Sean came pretty far ahead. Now that we're all together after WrestleMania is over, Sean is leading us with 9 points, Terrence with 8, and I really crapped the bed, and I am at 7 points because I just got everything wrong on night two apparently. So we're gonna carry this all the way through to next year's WrestleMania, and we'll have a winner then. Our next set of predictions will be for Backlash on May 10th. And then we'll do all of the PLEs, everything that's coming up for WWE and AEW over the course of the next 11 calendar months. So, if you guys want to participate with us, jump in the comments and let us know your predictions, and we'll keep score. So we really appreciate it.
I remember my point that I wanted to make to you that the one thing that kind of helps after Mania here is that we now have somebody to place the blame on, where it's both to a point that you and T made. Having The Rock to blame for all of this makes it a little bit more palatable.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. Yep. So that's our episode, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for our review of the Raw After Mania for our podcast. This is our 11th episode of the podcast, and we really appreciate all of your support. As always, guys, hit that like and subscribe button. Help us get to 100 subscribers. We're going to do something real fun when we're getting real close to that, and we'll have a special episode for you guys. Look forward to our NFL content that's going to be coming out this week. It'll be the first of a series of stuff on the NFL draft. As you guys are obviously aware, we're in the 716. So we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills, what we think they're going to do, where we think they're going to go in the draft, and we'll give you our thoughts on all of things NFL as well as we kind of start kicking things off at the start of the new NFL season. So thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening and take care.